the Mzungu, after telling Africans what they are doing is in shrines is not really good, he goes forth to build shrines in those trees, the way Africans were doing. And then he names those shrines Holy Hills, shrine of a given lady. And these are the things you are doing. Africans used to have reverence to their ancestors who have died. They used to do some libations when they eat. They used to pause and meditate. Before they eat, they show some element of gratitude to some predecessor into their lives. And they pour some water down. When the Catholics and the Mzungu came, he told you there is no connection between the dead and the living. Well, but the church itself has a whole feast for the dead, which they call the Holy All. Now, the white man came to Africa and started questioning what he saw around. And many of the things that we were doing, he was not really understanding them. What did he result to? He proscribed them, he restricted them, he condemned them systemically, arbitrarily, and the Africans started being subdued psychologically, financially, society-wise, spiritually, and culturally. They started imbibing, consuming, and receiving elements of culture, of spirituality, of economy, of agriculture from the white man, which were alien to them. They resisted, and over time, because of their brainwashing, the subsequent generations could not understand that what we are doing today is so wrong, rather is so deflective of how things should be. It becomes the normality. The European culture's way of thinking, the way of language, way of cooking, way of dressing, way of spirituality became so default that any African who does not conform to these practical practices is considered outcast, is considered illiterate, is considered weird. Any African who doesn't go to church is considered a bad person. But do you know that if you compare what Africans were doing before the Mzungu came and what we are doing now, it is so much nonsense. But you have been fixed and conditioned. Now you think Christianity is best and is good and it works and is the default. However, everything opposite about that is true. Mzungu comes here and finds Africans having shrines or having some grounds which they consider sacred. And those grounds are trees, mountains, swampy places, springs. And then he started teaching them Christianity, which you like Christianity. I like calling it Christianity. Now the Mzungu, after telling Africans what they are doing is in shrines is not really good, he goes forth to build shrines in those trees, the way Africans were doing. And then he names those shrines Holy Hills, shrine of a given lady. And these are the things you are doing. Africans used to have reverence to their ancestors who have died. They used to do some libations when they eat. They used to pause and meditate. Before they eat, they show some element of gratitude to some predecessor into their lives. And they pour some water down. When the Catholics and the Mzungu came, he told you there is no connection between the dead and the living. Well, but the church itself has a whole feast for the dead, which they call the Holy All Saints. So you wonder, why is the church telling you not to pour libations, but the church is having an entire feast, the Halloween, which is now called the All Saints, to mark those who have died and have gone to a place called heaven. Some shitty things and concepts which were never they were introduced. Concepts of hell, concepts of a bullshit heaven, concepts of a God were never existent. Concepts of laws of a God. Nowadays you are beginning to experience people saying that I am following the laws of God. We are living by the commandments of God. That is bullshit. You have just made some your own rules, and for you, because you know these rules are shitty, for them to be followed without questioning what you do, you brand them to have come from an entity which you call God, and therefore they should be followed. So if you look at these things which are called the commandments, you'll be surprised that Moses borrowed so much in his style of governance from what he learned in Egypt, because he was a prince there who turned a rebel, because he grew up as a prince and he learned secrets. He learned in Egypt, he studied, the governance structures. And then when he went there, the laws that he gave people, they contained, they reflected the culture of the Jews. They could own slavery, they could own slaves, and actually one of the laws guides you, don't convert your neighbor's slaves, but slavery. So which means slavery is correct. And then those are the laws that they are correct and should not be questioned. Just say, instead of saying, these are our laws you have made, you start saying they are laws of a God. Those things were never there. But Mzungu came and crogged you. You must drop the nonsense you are having. The brainwashing of the Mzungu is not so severe. It is not permanent. It is not a place that you have been put into. Rather, it is like a garment which you have wrapped yourself. You can drop it down, and this drama will simply disappear. Wake